I want you to remember a moment in your life when the darkness was so complete and overwhelming, you felt it swallow you up. Moments like this stick with us. Years later, we still get that pit in our stomach when we remember and think, I don't ever want to suffer like that again. But what if that darkness is the exact environment that you need to become who you were meant to be, and for your true purpose to take root like a seed deep in the earth? Years later, and I can still picture my darkest day. If you've ever spent the night in a hospital room, then you know it's never fully dark, never quiet. There are always fluorescent lights glowing, doors opening and shutting, and monitors beeping, until you feel like the sounds are coming from behind your own eyes. With a 2-year-old and newborn twins at home, even those lights and sounds felt eerily calm and quiet as I watched my husband's slow, rasping breaths. What had once been a strong and muscled chest now looked like a deflated balloon. We were at the hospital, again, for the morphine that would give him a short break from the pain that had hounded him day and night for months. I knew the doctors wouldn't give us any answers, but they could give us temporary relief. Because on that day, I realized what the doctors were too afraid to tell me. Maybe the one thing we actually agreed on. That my husband was dying in front of me. And that is when fear took over my entire body. And all I could think was, I will save him if it kills me. A doctor walked in the room and echoed my suspicion. They had one option left: to remove this 33-year-old man's colon. And that's when it hit me. You see, all they ever knew to do was treat the symptom. They never had any intention of digging a little deeper to discover the cause of the symptoms, the root issue. And if they can't explain it, they'll just eliminate it. It was the strangest feeling because it was as if time slowed down, but something in my body was quickly waking up. Through my ears, I heard the doctor give us our next steps like they were written in stone. But deep in my gut, I heard this small voice whisper to me another path. One that was risky and untested, but hopeful and brave. And in that moment, I knew exactly what to do. I was going to listen to the small, quiet voice. I'd been ignoring her for way too long. You see, I believe that each of us has a true self, the person that we were designed to be. And most of us, we spend our lives running from that true self, allowing the world and our fear to dictate and cover up our truth. But what I've come to realize is that these seasons of cold, lonely darkness can wake up our true self and foster it into beautiful fruition. The truth is, pain, it comes to all of us. I know you didn't ask for it, but it's here, and it chose you. And you won't grow in it or move through it until you choose it right back. Because pain is part of your story, whether you want it or not. It's the one thing in life that we are guaranteed. But you do have a choice. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it save you. Pain, actually, isn't the enemy here. Maybe you didn't cause the pain, but by avoiding it, you're creating the suffering. Because when you accept the darkness and embrace it, instead of trying to avoid and escape it, you're doing what I call the underground work. And it will teach you, it will empower you, and it will guide you to your truest self. Because in the hospital that day, it was the true me speaking up. And I listened. I demanded release papers, and I drove us home from the hospital for the very last time. I wanted real healing instead of temporary solutions, even if it meant doing the digging all on my own. And slowly, after several months of questions and trails of cookie crumb answers from Arkansan medicine men, Australian gut experts, and West Coast functional medicine doctors, my husband was healed and his life was saved. And so was mine. Because my darkest day was also the day that I came home to myself for the first time in a long time. And I made room for all of me. I gave voice to my fear. I felt my pain. I sat in the darkness. See, some part of us is going to demand that we become our true self, even if we keep squashing it down. So instead of, like me, letting catastrophe force you, kicking and screaming like someone being buried alive into the underground work, what if you turned toward the darkness daily and did a little gardening? It's not easy, but it is simple. And it starts with waking up to the ways that you are constantly distracting yourself with busyness and distraction in an effort to avoid your pain. Let me share with you what this might look like. In full disclosure, it's probably going to get uncomfortable. Maybe you're struggling with addiction, drugs, porn, alcohol, your phone, approval. Maybe you let everyone but you call the shots in your life. Your parents, your job, your friends, your partner. Or maybe you're the one calling the shots in other people's lives. Like your kids. You try to control their friends, their grades, their activities, their future. And while we're on the subject of control, maybe you carefully curate your physical appearance, your online presence. Maybe none of this rings true to you because you are so stuck in a comparison loop, losing precious hours of your life envying someone else's house, their job, their relationship. Could it be that All of these are just ways to avoid our pain, to silence our fear. Because we're afraid that the people who mean the most to us won't love us, or they'll leave us, or they'll judge all our ugliness. We are so desperate to avoid any potential hurt, and in the process, we're the ones hurting ourselves. Pain is a teacher, and it won't leave you until it teaches you. And you can't teach an empty chair. So you got to stop running, stop avoiding, and get to digging. And look, I get it. The underground work, it sucks. It's hard. It's lonely. It's certainly not post-worthy. And there will come a point where you feel like you cannot do the underground work any longer. You will feel like you are at your breaking point. Because you are. In order for a seed to grow, it must first break through the soil. The breaking point means you are almost there. Sunlight and freedom are just inches away. And after you've broken through the darkness, you aren't afraid of it anymore. Because you know it birthed you into life. Your life. And it probably won't look anything like the life your family, your fear, or the world told you to live. And you start to attract other people who have already broken through the soil. They see your oak tree, you see their rose garden, and you both realize there was never anything to compare in the first place. But here's the thing about the underground work. It's not a one and done thing. It's something you have to remind yourself of every single day. For me, I like to wake up with darkness itself in the quiet morning hours, and I sit, and I breathe deeply. And I wait. And I listen. And I look into my own darkness, and I wait for a quiet voice to fill it. That voice is familiar to me now. And after years of meeting the darkness, and let's be honest, hundreds of hours in therapy, I can recognize that my childhood trauma, my adult trauma, all the things that happened to me actually happened for me. I stopped viewing myself as a victim who survived and started knowing I'm a survivor who inspires. And that's a voice I can't ignore. When I sat in the hospital room that day, it felt like a tomb. And I thought I would give absolutely anything to never have to face the darkness again. But now I see the fruit of the seed that was planted inside of me. And that's what keeps me turning toward the darkness every single morning. Because see, darkness isn't a tomb. It's a womb that births something new. And now I want us to end this the way we started. I want you to go back to that moment of pain and fear that swallowed you up whole. And I want you to wonder, what if that darkness wasn't the end of something, but the beginning? What if it wasn't trying to suffocate you, but just hold you? Who could you become if you let yourself grow? Are you willing to embrace the darkness and find out? Thank you.